Erwin Smith from Attack on Titan is possibly one of the greatest commanders in anime history, but what if we compare him to the greatest leaders in real life? Well, maybe greatest is an exaggeration, but I'll be comparing how Erwin handled Titans against how every world leader would handle Titans. Please note that these are all theoretical and I don't mean to offend anybody. Starting off with the one and only Trump guard of America, Donald Trump. If Donald Trump were in place of Erwin, instead of fighting the wall problem, he would just straight up tell everybody to build a bigger wall. After all, he already built a wall to segregate people, he would just do the same for Titans. Then he would try to negotiate with the Titans, or specifically the Beast Titan, to settle a peace treaty, only to stab them in the back years later. However, as we know, the Titans only want the destruction of Paradis, and so Trump's strategy would most likely not work. He would most probably command his fellow scouts to construct a massive atomic bomb. However, given their technology at the time, Trump's methods just wouldn't work before the Titans take over. There's a reason why he's the first on this list, because he would most definitely get eliminated before anyone else does. He'd be manipulating the stock market while the walls are coming down and everyone's screaming and running. In number 4, we have the infamous chairman of China, Mao Zedong. Mao's specialty has always been image. He is able to set up propaganda via his scouts to make himself seem trustworthy and powerful. After all, this man literally convinced his fellow Chinese citizens that he swam across a river that was 15 kilometers long at the age of 72. And guess what? Everyone somehow believed them, probably because they would get executed if they didn't. The useful thing here is that in the actual series, the scouts are known for always losing, and thus they never received the funding and support that they needed. However, with Mao in command, the scenario might change because he could simply set up propaganda that would convince everyone that all they did was win. The funding would allow the scouts to receive something like the Thunder Spears way more earlier than when they did. This could have potentially helped them destroy Reiner's Titan early on, which would give them an advantage. However, that's really all there is to his power. He definitely would not be able to lead a death charge, especially with him in front, and therefore the thing that he lacks is balls. Although he is able to sacrifice many lives, he undoubtedly would not give up his own. Although Erwin's image is not as good as Mao's, he is more focused on victory, which would overall provide more value than whatever Mao could do. Coming in at number 3, we have the French shorty, Napoleon Bonaparte. Not to be offensive, but I'm pretty sure even Wemby would be considered a shorty in the face of Titans. Now, Napoleon would rank higher than Mao or Trump because he specializes in war tactics. Similar to Erwin, he would analyze the Titans' weaknesses and build formations that would counter them. He is an expert at cutting off supplies, as we've seen him do to many forts in the past. He would probably realize early on that Zeke had an escape route via his supplier, Peak. However, the question is whether or not he would even reach that point, because his weakness is that he never stops. During the war with Russia in 1812, Napoleon conquered the land in Russia. However, he got too ahead of himself and thought they could also pull off negotiations. The negotiations never came, but it was already too late to retreat due to the heavy snow. By the time he decided to retreat, half of his men died due to the freezing. Like Erwin, all he does is push forward, despite everyone having no morals to continue. Even if he got past the war with Zeke, he would continue without even reanalyzing his opponent or supplying. He has the potential to win the war with Zeke, but he would most definitely lose right after that. Therefore, he would not have provided the amount of impact that Erwin provided, leading characters like Hanji or Levi to their deaths, ranking him at number 3. Next, in number 2, we have Vladimir Putin. Now, Vladimir is a person that has the potential to outwit Erwin. Just like Erwin, he is not afraid to lose anything. I mean, literally every photo I see of him is him staring down an animal in the eye. If the Titans showed up, Putin would not flinch. He would bring everyone to attack the Beast Titan head on. However, this man has the survival instincts of a literal bear. He would not simply go in and die. He would probably find a way to convince his loyal men to charge in place of him while he flees the scene. The question is whether or not the men would continue charging without a leader, and if they did, then the commander survives and wins the war. However, if they didn't, he would end up suffering a huge loss to his team. But let's not sell what Putin actually brings to the table, because it's more than just standing there and looking scary. Before he was even a leader, he was actually a KGB intelligence officer, and his whole career was built on gathering secrets, reading people, and playing the long game. And if there's one thing the war against Titans really came down to, it was information. While Erwin spent years fumbling in the dark just trying to reach that basement, Putin would already have spies in the walls, in the government, in the military police. He'd know Reiner and Bertolt were Titans before they even jumped Erwin. And also, Putin doesn't just fight the enemy in front of him, he turns everyone against each other. Remember the corrupt king and the interior police working against the scouts? Well, Putin wouldn't even need to charge the Beast Titan if he could just make the government hand him absolute control first. He would be playing a game of chess against the interior police. That's what makes him a genuine threat to Erwin's spot. The only reason he's not number one is that all that scheming means nothing if at the final moment he's not willing to put his neck on the line, and we all know he isn't. The thing that separates him and Erwin is that although Erwin wants to live and find out more about the Titans, he was still willing to sacrifice himself to become a symbol of motivation for future scouts. In nature, Vladimir is much more selfish than Erwin. While as much as Erwin wants to live, he at least knows when is the right time to sacrifice himself for the greater good. Therefore, Vladimir has potential but still would most likely not end up providing as much value as Erwin did. Lastly, in number 1, we have the nonchalant man himself, Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was known for popping a cigar every time he faced struggle, standing there with his calm look. He is probably the closest you'll ever get to someone like Erwin. Churchill was willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good, going down as a symbol of motivation and pride. Now, even though he's 65 and would most likely not be able to use ODM gear properly, he would still undoubtedly have the courage to speak and lead the team. From his famous speech of "We shall fight them on the beaches," he would use that exact quote but replace the beaches with walls. "We shall fight them on the walls." Who was able to say something like that despite everything being on fire and people dying? And this isn't just me hyping him up for no reason, because I know it's hard to believe that someone not so known like Putin or Napoleon can place so high. But let's go back to D-Day, the biggest invasion in human history. Churchill didn't want to sit somewhere safe like the office and watch it happen from a map. He genuinely wanted to be on a warship right next to the conflict, in actual danger, watching the landings in person. The only reason he didn't do that is that King George VI himself had to step in and basically say that if he's going in, then the king is as well. And it goes back further than that. During the Blitz, when German bombs were flattening London every single night, Churchill would famously climb onto the rooftops to watch the raids instead of hiding in a bunker like a sane person would. Back in World War I, Churchill was the guy who pushed hard for a campaign called Gallipoli. It was a catastrophe, tens of thousands died, and the blame ultimately landed on him. He became one of the most hated men in Britain overnight. To compensate, he volunteered to go into the trenches and work in the front lines. He was someone who sent men to their deaths and took full accountability for it, just like Erwin did. However, even after being the most similar to Erwin, he still falls short of one thing. In fact, all of these leaders lack something that Erwin has. It's not courage or balls, as pretty much all of them have it. It's the willingness to be hated. Erwin sent out thousands to their deaths, all based off a mere theory. He carried that in public, took the blame, never pretended that his hands were clean, and then at the very end he charged first. Everyone who watched the scouts come back every time in defeat blamed it ultimately on Erwin, having to bear the lives of all the scouts he led to death. So the answer to, could any of these world leaders do better against the Titans than Erwin, is no. And that's something you have to take into account when Isayama wrote the story. He decided that Erwin's character would be the best fit to ultimately provide the destruction against the Titans. Although it wasn't necessarily the ending we wanted, it's undeniably the ending that ended the cycle against the war with Titans. Oh, and real quick before you go, I just want to say thank you. This is only my second video, and the last one hit 2,000 views and 80 likes, and honestly way more comments than I ever expected. And yes, I did read every single one of them. So for a small channel, that really means a lot, and it's the only reason I'm making this one. So if you got a suggestion, like a leader I missed or a character you want me to break down next, drop them in the comments. Alright, that's it. tell me who I ranked wrong, drop your top 5, and subscribe if you dedicated your hearts. See you in the next one.
It's gone now. What was it about?